Welcome to Unleash Your Audacious Confidence on Win-Win Women TV. This show is all about sharing the tips, tools, and techniques that will allow you to step boldly in the direction of your dreams despite your feelings, fears, or past failures, to imagine what's possible for yourself and live the life you deserve. Hello, and welcome again to another fabulous episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win-Win Women TV. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and today's show, we're talking about shame, body image. How do we shift from a negative body image to a positive body image and get rid of some of that shame? And yeah, we titled this Affirmations Don't Work because we don't want to just layer on top of all the stuff that we have that we're believing about ourselves that's negative. We just don't want to layer words on top of that because it doesn't really shift anything. So before we get deep into that, I just want to encourage you to go to winwinwomen.com if you would like to be if you'd like to find out more about events for women, because this is all about you. This is all about us. And we have events going on all around the world. So we can go to winwinwomen.com and check out those events. And if you would like to find out more about being a show host yourself and having one of these shows, maybe you have a lot to offer women, you can go to my website, redcarpetceo.com. And when you're on redcarpetceo.com, there is a Win-Win Women logo when you scroll up, and you'll see that logo. When you click on that, it'll take you to winwinwomen.com and how to be a show host. So go check out redcarpetceo.com. I'm so happy that you've joined me here today because I think this is a really important show. In fact, so important that I have an upcoming TEDx talk coming up that I'm going to be talking about this topic of self-image, body image, and how I'm trying to choose my words wisely because I didn't want to say suffer, because I don't know that I suffered from a negative body image. But there were a lot of things that held me back because I had a negative self-image of myself and especially of my body. I had a lot of wrong beliefs about my own body. And there was a lot of shame attached to it, a lot of self-loathing attached to it. And I had to work my way through that. And really, that's what the TEDx talk is going to be about. But also, I want to share some of the tips that have helped me shift the narrative from a negative self-image into a more positive self-image, into love, into actually loving myself, because we don't do that enough. In fact, there is a survey that was done in Australia for women. And the survey it's a body confidence survey. It was by Special K. It's an Own It body confidence survey. Like, let's own it. Let's own ourselves. Let's own our confidence. And in that survey, it was alarming because it said that 7 out of 10 women, 7 out of 70% of women, 7 out of 10. Let that number sink in for you. 7 out of every 10 women has an I hate my body moment at least once a week. 43% of them won't ever put on a bathing suit or go to the beach or go by a pool because they just hate the way they look in a bathing suit and they won't wear one. And 83% of women hate their midsections. Now, it might surprise you to think that I was in that 83%, that I hated my midsection. I've tried multiple things to get rid of it. And it's not that it's like, in my mind, it's there. Nobody else looking at my stomach thinks it's there. Thinks that anything's wrong with it. And that's when I had to realize, listen, I have to shed my own negative body image, because I'm like, what are you complaining about? Why do you look at yourself and like, stop it, right? But no amount of affirmation, no amount of I love myself, I love my body, you're so beautiful, you're so, oh my goodness. No amount of telling myself something was changing what I was seeing. It was changing how I was seeing it, changing how my brain was interpreting it. It helped. I mean, it did help me temporarily feel better. But we want to affect change from a deeper place than just temporarily feeling good in the moment. We want you to be able to look at yourself and love, come from a place of love. And self-love is not just having a spa day or, a bubble bath every week, having me time every week. It goes so much deeper than that. It goes into the level of behavior. Self-love is an action, not just words and not just something to make you feel good. Because a lot of times, self-love does not feel good. And when I say not feel good, not from an emotional, like, lovey feeling place. Self-hate doesn't, self-loathing does not feel good. But when I say self-love does not feel good, I mean, you have to do something that sometimes might hurt, that sometimes might be painful, that sometimes might be frustrating, but it's evidence of loving yourself. So self-love sometimes is not fun, and it doesn't always feel good. Like waking up, some people have to wake up at 5 a.m, go to the gym and go exercise. That doesn't always feel good at 5 a.m. when you have to climb out of a nice warm bed to go work out. But that is self-love in action. So when I'm talking about self-love, when I'm talking about body positivity, I'm not just talking about it from a mental perspective. What I believe is, in order to shift the belief from self-loathing to self-loving, it has to be an action. It has to be in demonstration. So affirmations on their own just like give you, again, give you the warm fuzzies in the moment, maybe sometimes, but we need to shift that belief completely. And the only way to shift that belief is by making the decision to shift the belief and then taking the actions to shift the belief. One of the actions that you could take is actually finding the root of why that shame or that self-loathing is actually there. If you can shift the root of why it's there, then you can, well, if you can identify the root, if you can identify the root of why it's there, then you can shift it. If you can't identify it, there are other ways that we can shift it. But one of the ways is identifying the root cause. Say, for instance, in my TEDx talk, I'm going to talk about an incident of where I really hated the fact that I was flat-chested for so long, because all my classmates had bras and they were developed. They had all gone through, or they were all going through, had gone through puberty. And I was still, kind of flat-chested. I didn't have anything. And so I was teased for being flat-chested when everybody else had. And so when I started developing, I developed really rapidly. And so when they came out, they kind of like, here I am. And I didn't have that much of a transition from not having to now, boom. And so I didn't know how to handle that. So that period of time in my life where I went from hating them because I didn't have them and desperately wanting them to now having them, but having an abundance of them, and then not knowing how to handle the added attention from men and the just being around other girls my age and them pointing it out or making, just teenage stuff, right? So for me, that's the root of where I started the self-loathing and the hating my body, because it was comparing it to other people, first of all, and then they were comparing it and making fun of me. And so I had a lot of shame around it. I had a lot of shame around my body. And now looking back, I realize a lot of that teasing was because, I had a pretty good body at that age in my teenager years. And they were like upset with me for that. I had nothing to do with it. I couldn't make it happen I mean, I wanted it to, but I couldn't control what was happening with my own body. I mean, I was athletic and I had really great, strong legs. And so I just felt shame because they always found something to tease me about my body. And it even went further back to when I was growing up in Australia. If I really had to find the root, it went even further back to when I was growing up and in a predominantly white school, being, the color of skin that I was, short, tiny little thing that I was, and being in an environment where they had never encountered, or they had very limited encounter with anyone that looked like me. And so that's really the root of it, is that I just wanted to fit in, blend in, and I felt a lot of shame for the body I was in because I was teased a lot. I was teased a lot by other people for the color of my skin, for the texture of my hair, for every way I looked, the broadness of my nose, the thickness of my lips, like every part of me was pulled apart, picked apart, teased, except for my eyes. Except that my eyes were dark. And a lot of my classmates had blue or green eyes or light brown eyes. And I had these dark, dark eyes. So even that, yeah, the shape of my eye, I mean, you name it, it was talked about in some way, shape, or form. And so I developed from that early age, like I didn't have someone giving me affirmations at that early age. That's when affirmations really work, when they're able to take hold, when you're wide open, your subconscious is wide open to receiving all those things. And when it's wide open to receiving, that's when you need to implant all those great affirmations into young kids. And so that when they grow up, they already believe great things about themselves. When they're older, now someone really has to shift that rock solid belief about how awesome they are to make them shift that. But when you're teased from a young age, or you're put down or made to feel shame from a young age, then when you now try to layer affirmations on top of that, they just aren't going to shift what's already been broken inside of there. So we need to repair that break. And when we go back, like I said, one way is to go back and find the corrupted file, find when that file became corrupted, and reframe the file, like reboot, reprogram. We want to reprogram that file so that we can start seeing things differently. So this all stemmed from a conversation I had with an esthetician, and she was asking me, well, how do you do that? How do you change then if affirmations, because she was telling me affirmations for her made her feel like she was faking it to make it. And we were having this conversation. Well, how do you really change, believing that something's wrong with you or that you're not pretty? How do you really shift and change that? And that's when I told her, it's like, well, you have to decide that that's what you're going to do. You have to make that decision that that's what you're going to do, that I'm going to shift it. I'm not going to say things like that about myself again. I'm going to catch myself before it actually, the thought completely formulates. Like when I start having the thought, I need to stop it. Say, no, we're not thinking that, because that's not true. That's not the truth about who I am. And we need to give ourselves a new reality. And it's not telling ourselves that new reality, it's showing ourselves that new reality. So one of the things she was talking about is that she doesn't like the gym. She's like me. I don't like the gym either. She doesn't like the gym, but she started going to the gym and she feels so much better when she goes to the gym. I said, yeah, even if you're just there for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you have to build up the habit of being there. There's a really great book. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he talks about building the habit before you can optimize the habit. So you can use that same concept here. We need to start doing things. So if we have a belief about ourselves, like for me, I had a belief a long time ago, not right now, a long time ago, about the color of my skin. I didn't like it. And now I love the color of my skin. Right? But how did I get from hating it to loving it? I hated it because people around me made fun of it. And I felt shame about it. And then I was in an environment where darker skin was not preferred. Like, the guys, like where I was, where I went to school, guys like girls that didn't have darker skin. But then there were some guys that liked darker skin girls. So, but that was all environmental. That was all people imposing their thoughts and their beliefs on me. And I never gave myself the opportunity to understand what I really believed about it. What did I really, really believe about it? And so that's where I had to shift. And I had to decide, what do I want to believe about the color of my skin? And then I started to think about all the advantages and all the benefits and all the things that my skin color brings to me. And then when I shifted the narrative and then started treating my skin differently, I mean, I always moisturized it, but I take care of my skin. And it's in the taking care of it that you're showing the love that you have for it. I'm not trying to bleach it. I'm not trying to abuse it. I'm not trying to change it in a negative way. I'm trying to nurture it. And, if I have a blemish or something, what can I do to heal that? I remember one time I burned my legs pretty badly with a flat iron. Like the flat iron was falling and I trapped it with my leg instead of letting it just drop to the ground. And the metal plates, was still on, and the metal plates burned my legs pretty badly. And I thought, oh my gosh, my leg is never going to heal properly again. I'm always going to be scarred now. I had, like this flawless skin on my legs, and now it's going to be scarred forever. And it is scarred, I do have a scar for that from the burns, but I started treating the burns very immediately. I started treating it and putting the right things on it so that it can heal as best as it possibly can heal. I got the like the scar ointment, so when it actually healed, because it has to stop the scabbing and all that before you can start putting stuff on it and heal. And now even the scar that I have left, I look at that scar and I'm like, that's a unique scar. I kind of call them my tiger stripes. I'm like, it's like a tiger stripe. And I don't feel like it deformed me in any way. I don't feel like I'm something's wrong with me in any way. People rarely even ask me about the scars because it's so, like a part of me that I love. So it's really about finding ways to really love and appreciate and looking at things from a different lens. So when I look at that, that was an experience that happened. I burned myself. The burns were there for at least, like, it was really bad for at least a year and a half. But now you can barely even see that it's there. Like I said, I have like these two little tiger stripes. But that made me unique now. That's a new element of that makes me stand out differently, So it's, how do you now look at love and appreciate what you have, but show love in action. And that's where our conversation was going. I'm like, how do you show love in action? How do you look at something that you've been looking at all the time and saying, ugh, I hate you. I hate that this is here. Well, what can you do about it? What are you willing to do about it? And I'm not talking about going and cutting it off or having surgery to remove it. Yes, you can do that. But you have to get up here right first, because even when you have it removed, the way your brain will interpret it, will interpret how your eyes see it, you will continue to see it the way it was before, and you'll never be satisfied. So you have to see it. You have to shift up here first, and then you can go have another procedure done. Because then that procedure is in service to you, and it's not because you hate it and you hate yourself. So you have to do things that are in service to you. I hope that makes sense. If it's in service, now it's in service to you. So, like my friend, I was talking to the esthetician, and she had fallen and had a bump on her nose, and she didn't like the bump and has always her whole life wanted to have plastic surgery. But our conversation was, when you can learn to love it and appreciate it as part of you and see it as part of you, then when you want to go have it, shaved down a little bit or altered a little bit or have the surgery done, it's not because you hate it. It's because it's now, you know what? This could probably help me breathe better. Having the surgery can help reset my nose so that it's not twisted, or, but it's not because, I can't stand looking at myself in the mirror because of this thing. So we need to recognize the root. If you can't find the root, if you can't recognize the root, then that's fine too. Because the next step is to make the decision that I'm going to change whatever this is. I am going to change this. I'm going to change this belief. I'm going to change the negative self-talk. I am going to change this. And then we have to take the actions necessary to change the belief. Love has to be in action. It's not just in words. Affirmations are the words. And I'm not saying don't ever do it. I'm saying that they don't work in the way that you want them to work alone. They have to be in conjunction with these other things. So that now, if you can pull out the root, if you can reframe the root, and like one of my reframes, I talked about the color of my skin from growing up in the environment that I did, hating my skin because nobody else had the skin color I did. And I was teased about it and everything. And it's really, that's what it is. Nobody else had my skin color. I was unique. And the teasing was because they didn't understand. People fear a lot of times what they don't understand. And so they didn't understand it. So they resorted to teasing. And my 5-year-old brain couldn't process that in a mature, intelligent way. So it held on to it as pain. But as an adult, I can think through that process a lot differently. And I can see it for what it was looking back at it. And I can say, you know what? These were young children. They'd never seen anything quite like me before. Some of them, they were afraid of it, so they lashed out in fear. Some of them avoided because they didn't know if it was contagious. Right? They didn't know if I was contagious, if they touched me or touched anything that I had. But it was all out of their own lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. It wasn't malicious for the sake of being mean. That's the way I choose to look at it. And so because I was different, that's where that came from. Nothing was wrong with me. Absolutely nothing. And from that place now, I can build on those affirmations. I can build on what I do for self-love, how I treat my body, what it is, give it what it needs, eat right, keep my body fit and healthy as much as I possibly can, monitor it, do the right things by it, and, treat it well. When you love something or someone, you treat it well. So think about how you're treating the body that you have, mentally, emotionally, and physically, on all 3 planes. Are you treating this body like you love it? And when you can honestly answer that question, am I treating my body like I love it and I want it to be around for a long time, and I want it to be strong and healthy for a long time, and I want it to serve me for a long time? Then you'll do the things that allows it, again, back to atomic habits. You'll do the things, even when it's small things, small incremental things. So maybe I give up sweets, give up candy, give up ice cream because it's not serving my body. Once in a while, maybe I'll have it as a treat, but overall, generally, I don't eat that stuff, right? You might be thinking, yeah, generally, I don't eat that stuff because it's not in service to this amazing body that I have. We have to stop looking at it shamefully and looking at, well, looking at that 82%, looking in the mirror and seeing our midsection and go, ugh, well, what can I do today to help you be the best that you can be? What things can we do? Let's think about the things that we can do to trim our midsection if we hate it. But it requires responsibility. It requires commitment. It requires love. And it requires love in action. So, I know I got kind of deep, and hopefully you're not convicted by it, and even if you are convicted by what I said, hopefully it's, that it's in love, because I had to go through the same thing myself. So hopefully that it's in love and it's in service to you, and that you can now take the necessary actions to respond to what I shared. And if you'd like to respond to me in person, other than coming to the show live, you can also reach out to me, Alicia360.com. You can go to that website, Alicia360.com, and you can reach out to me on any social media platform, or on email me, WhatsApp me, text me. Right there is all my contact information, Alicia360.com. And I will see you on another episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win Win Women TV. So I encourage you now to be bold, to be brave, and every day do one thing to show your love for yourself in action. Show love in action. I'll see you next time.